Welcome back. I'm Dr. Todd Lizon of Lifestyle Integration. We're talking about the new paradigm of healing and how we have to change our mindsets in order to be able to move forward with getting well and staying well. We're going to talk about 2 of the 10 points today. The first point is that we need to start thinking in terms of whole systems. What that means is that we cannot afford to look at all the parts of what's happening. We need to look at the whole organism, the whole person, and not just the little parts that are breaking down. A more common way of looking at this that's been said is that you can't see the forest for the trees. If you spend all the time looking at just one little tree, you'll lose perspective that that's part of a greater ecosystem. It's part of a forest. There's all kinds of things that are going on in that ecosystem. It's a very difficult concept for a lot of people to grasp because we're not taught this. We're taught to focus in on what's wrong and really focus in and fixing on that. And what I'm saying is that while we need to pay some attention to that, we need to look at the whole systems and what got us there in the first place. An example I get on a regular basis is people come to me and say, Todd, I've heard about this great new supplement. I think I need to take it. And I have to step them back a little bit and say, that is a well-accepted nutrient within the entire ecosystem. There's no debate about that. But keep in mind, too much or too little is a problem. An imbalance is a problem. All these things need to be taken into account. There's no one nutrient that's going to fix all of our problems, and we need to see the whole forest, not just that tree. Now, the second point in looking at this new paradigm of healing and helping us get our shift is that we need to focus on the newer causes of disease. A lot of science these days, a lot of medicine these days, a lot of just healing these days really doesn't focus on these newer causes of disease as much as we need to. And those are things like the mineral deficient food that we're eating. Extremely important. And we'll spend a lot of time talking about that. There's the toxic food supply. We cannot simply keep raising the allowable level of toxic metals, for example, in our food supply. We need to eventually snap out of that madness and say, no, you can't sell that or import that into the country. We need to look at our diets of refined foods. It's absolutely crazy what we're doing with that these days. We need to look at the chemicals that are in the food and start realizing that we can't eat that and not expect some adverse effects over time. Our lifestyles need to be addressed. Talk about the newer causes of diseases, and the lifestyle is so critical. It's not usually the pathology, it's not usually the heart attack or the heart disease that's the pathology. What's pathological is what got you there, and that's your lifestyle. So we actually, the way I explain it, we lead pathological lifestyles more so than we have pathological disease. And other things in the newer causes of disease are things like ionizing radiation, what's happened in Japan in the last little while. That radiation doesn't just stay within a 200-kilometer radius. It gets into the atmosphere and it spreads out around the world and gets to more equal levels as it goes around. There was never any radioactive accidents in Alaska, for example, or in the Arctic, and yet they're consistently finding radiation up in those areas. So these are some of the newer points, newer causes of disease that we need to look at as well. So for now, that's the first couple of points that we're going to talk about. We'll be back later with a couple more points talking about this new paradigm of healing. Until then, keep well.